This is WFYI News Now. It's December 17th, and I'm Abriana Herron. On today's show, Governor Eric Holcomb appoints a Lake County judge to the Indiana Court of Appeals. Marion County hospitals restrict visitors in response to a rise in flu and RSV cases. And since a fire in October displaced 48 Indianapolis veterans, several are finding permanent housing solutions.
I feel gratitude. I'm doing well, and I've got permanent housing now, and I'm really happy for one of the first times in my life.
Those stories coming up, but first. Indianapolis Public Schools locked down 3 East Side campuses Monday after a fatal stabbing nearby. Arsenal Tech High School, Theodore Potter School 74, and Harshman Middle School are less than a mile from the location where someone was stabbed and killed. A spokesperson for IPS said students and staff were safe and that instruction continued normally in classrooms. The Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department said that they have detained a person of interest in the case. Governor Eric Holcomb appointed Lake County Judge Stephen Scheele to the Indiana Court of Appeals Monday. As Indiana Public Broadcasting's Brandon Smith reports, Holcomb has now appointed nearly half of the state's appellate bench.
Holcomb says Scheele, a lifelong Lake County resident who's been a county judge since 2019, is the total package, someone who will bring intellect to the position while also being approachable and relatable.
A model, empathetic, humble.
Scheele says he hopes to be a leader on outreach, helping recruit people to the legal profession amid an attorney shortage, and ambassadorship, helping spread the Court of Appeals best practices.
My words cannot adequately capture the great sense of honor that I feel.
Scheele is Holcomb's 7th and final Court of Appeals appointment. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Brandon Smith at the State House.
Marion County hospitals are restricting visitors in response to a rise in flu and RSV cases. Visitors with symptoms of illness and those under the age of 18 will not be allowed in. Hospitals began putting restrictions into place on Monday. Marion County Health Department Director Dr. Virginia Kane advises that everyone get vaccinated that is able to, especially people over the age of 65 and children. And for our final story today, a recent fire at a transitional housing complex displaced 48 Indianapolis veterans. Now, several of those veterans are finding permanent housing solutions. The Manchester apartment complex caught fire in late October. Helping Veterans and Families, or HVAF, which manages the building, had to relocate all residents into temporary housing across the city. Marine Corps veteran Tommy Martin was one of the impacted. He lost everything but his bike in the fire.
At that time, I thought that it wasn't that bad and it would be put out pretty easy, but that was not the case at all.
Martin moved into permanent housing in November. He says his new apartment is stocked with food and clothes thanks to HVAF and its donors.
I feel gratitude. I'm doing well, and I've got permanent housing now, and I'm really happy for one of the first times in my life.
Work on the Manchester complex has begun, and HVAF officials say parts of the building could be available for residents in 6 months. HVAF continues the work of finding permanent housing solutions for the displaced veterans who remain in temporary housing. That's all for today's episode of WFYI News Now. Our podcast is produced by Drew Daudelin, with support from the news team at WFYI and public media journalists across the state. Our news director is Sarah Neal-Estes. Kendall Antron produced our music, and I'm your host, Abriana Herron. If you like today's episode, remember to subscribe and share, and follow WFYI on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube to check in on our newsroom throughout the day. Thanks for listening. We'll be back tomorrow.